So, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Let me start with my positives. I have two positives about this movie. Positive number one is that this movie is better than Thor Love and Thunder, as high of a bar as you consider that to be. Positive number two is, without a doubt, Jonathan Majors as Kang. I think that he is a fantastic actor, and I think that one of the major problems that Marvel has always had is having a memorable villain. A lot of their villains feel very throwaway. They come in for a movie, they're there, they do their thing, they get defeated, and they're never talked about again. They don't feel like they leave a lasting impact on whatever the legacy of this franchise is going to be. Other than, Loki or Thanos, there hasn't really been a standout villain. And I think the potential of that is here with Kang. However, how Kang is kind of ultimately undone in this movie, I'm not going to go into spoilers or anything just yet. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, but listen, as far as his first appearance goes, I thought he was intimidating. I thought that his presence, his manner of speaking, his body language, I think all of that worked to benefit the character and to understand his mindset. I think all of that is there. I think the groundwork is there, which is good. But he also feels like he sticks out like a sore thumb in this movie because he is very serious. He is very intimidating. And then you have the world of Ant-Man, which is like a comedy kinda. I mean, I laughed like 3 or 4 times maybe. I think my major issue with this movie is pretty much that this movie is exactly what I thought it was going to be before going into it. I feel like a lot of the Marvel movies now that come out, and I'm not alone in thinking this, and I think that it's sort of beginning to be the general consensus as well. Now, I do think there are still a few good ones. Even though I'm in the vast minority, I did enjoy Doctor Strange 2, but I know a lot of people didn't like that movie. But I think the problem is that the movies now, they feel very throwaway. They feel like they are setups and previews and teases for future movies rather than standing on their own and being their own film and being something memorable in amongst themselves, as opposed to saying, hey, here's just some previews of things that we're doing in the future. But then when you keep doing that, every single movie just feels like a preview for the next movie rather than being its own thing. Like, I remember the first phase of the MCU. Like, I was a fan from the get-go. I loved the original Iron Man. The original Thor, I think, was really good. Even though, again, a lot of people didn't like it. I liked the Incredible Hulk movie with Ed Norton. I thought that was good. And you could tell that those movies were teasing and sprinkling the idea that they were building to something, that they were building to the Avengers. But they still stood on their own as movies. They were still memorable in their own right. And they still had stories to tell in amongst themselves, rather than just, having so much convoluted history kind of thrown into them that you have to have all this pre-existing knowledge and we have to set up all this extra stuff that is happening. It was a simpler time, and I realize that as things expand and as they create more films, it's going to get more complicated. But a lot of these movies now, I feel like just totally are, cut and paste the same, or at least you see the trailer and you know exactly what's going to happen. I was having conversations with my friends as we were coming back from the theater, and I was saying, like, and this might be partially nostalgia bias, but remember, Spider-Man 2, like the original Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2. I remember how intense that fight scene felt like at the end of the film when Spider-Man was fighting Doc Ock on the train, and just the intensity of it. And I felt like I was on the edge of my seat, and I felt like it mattered. I felt like this fight was serious, And while watching Ant-Man and the Wasp, all of these things are happening. There's a lot of battles. There's a big, uprising that happens towards the end of this movie. It's this big war-like thing that's going on within this amazing, fantastical fantasy world. But I didn't feel anything. And I think that that's one of the major problems, because we're set in this world where pretty much like 95% of this movie takes place in the quantum realm. So it's all just a CGI just mess. And I know that like a lot of people were messing around saying that it looks like Spy Kids from the trailers. And honestly, it kind of does. But actually, it kind of more so looks like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, which actually I think might be a more entertaining movie than this, especially featuring MODOK, who does look pretty much just like George Lopez from Shark Boy and Lava Girl. And I get it, man. I get that MODOK is a weird looking character, okay? He's a giant face, right? He's just basically a giant face. But I gotta believe there is a better way to do MODOK than what they did in this movie, where they literally just took an actor's face and just blew it up and pasted it on the fucking MODOK thing. Like, at least make MODOK look intimidating in some way. Like, they could have like made his face look more ugly and distorted. They could have added wrinkles. They could have like whited out his eyes. They could have made his mouth and teeth all gross and disgusting. Like, you could have made him look like Quato from fucking Total Recall. Like, you could have made MODOK look kind of cool or kind of weird or kind of alien and out there and different, but instead they literally just took an actor's face and just blew it up and put it on MODOK, and it looks horrendous. It honestly looks horrendous. And you see MODOK's ass in the movie too. Did you ever want to see MODOK's ass? Did you ever like look at a picture of MODOK and you're like, I wonder what his ass looks like? You get to see MODOK's ass in this movie. And it does look horrible, and MODOK is played for a joke for the most part. And the sad thing is too, is like, even though they did what they did, they also had this like helmet that kind of like encapsulated his face, and they only had that on a couple of times in the movie. I think with as bad as MODOK looked, you could have probably just kept the mask on pretty much the entire time. But they didn't. And you get to see that in all of its glory. Also, being in this CGI environment, I just think that a lot of it just blends together and just kind of looks like muck. Like it presents itself as something that's supposed to feel fantastical and magical, like you're going to a whole new world, a whole new realm, you know, but because it's just so vast in CGI, it all just looks like murky and blends in together. Like the spectacle that should be there is not there. And I don't know why they didn't decide to at least make some sets for some places, because even sometimes when they're standing and they're standing on stone or they're standing on sand or something that's supposed to look like that, at least, I don't know, they're super microscopic, like the size of atoms. It's probably not actually sand, but you know what I'm saying? Like the floor, the ground they're standing on is also CGI. Like, you couldn't have found a place for the actors to stand, because you're seeing the actors on the screen, and then you can just tell that it's just a big green screen background behind them, and nothing is real, and nothing they're interacting with is real, and nothing they're holding is real, and the way they steer the ship isn't real, and like everything is just a CGI mess, and none of the CGI looks like something magical, you know? Like, you're going to a whole new realm, a whole new dimension. Like, it should feel like you're discovering a new reality. You're going to a new planet. Things are alien. There's a bunch of different creatures all walking around, and different societies and different groups of people, and it doesn't feel like that. It just looks like a mess. And you have Scott Lang, Ant-Man's daughter, playing a prominent role in the movie. This time she's played by Kathryn Newton, who, from Happy Death Day. I actually really like her as an actress, but she's not good in this movie, but it's not really her fault. She doesn't have a whole lot to work with. She's pretty much just the most stereotypical, generic, like, teenage girl character you could possibly imagine, getting the characters into trouble, and, like, not respecting her father, even though, like, literally because of Ant-Man and the Pym particles, they were able to save everybody in the universe because of Endgame. Without Ant-Man, that would have never happened. But she still looks to her dad like, you're not doing enough. Why aren't you being an activist like me and stuff like that? Like, it's just, what more can a man do? You literally saved the universe as part of the Avengers, and she still doesn't respect you. There's no hope, fellas. But really, I mean, she's just kind of, I don't know, she's just like a general, like, big budget movie, this is how we portray a teenage girl character. Like, there could have been more to her. There's not really much. Ant-Man himself, does he go through a lot of character development? Not really. He's just kind of Ant-Man. It's Paul Rudd. He's a handsome man, though. Now I want to talk about Kang in a little more in depth. But to do that, I'm going to have to get into spoilers. So I'm going to get into spoilers for the rest of this video. If you don't want to know, go ahead and leave now. If not, we're going to get into it. So Kang is supposed to be the next ultimate big bad in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's supposed to be the next Thanos, basically. And the thing about Kang is he's a human, okay? But he has the ability to kind of travel through the multiverse, travel through time. He has technology that makes him a lot more advanced. But I didn't really know a whole lot about Kang beforehand. But Kang, it seems like he is a human, but it's his suit and his technology that makes him powerful. So he's not like insanely powerful just on his own, but when he has all of his technology, he is, and he also just kind of has this predominance to become a conqueror, to become a ruler, and sort of like his fate, his destiny, like that sort of thing. And I think for most of this movie, they do a good job at making Kang intimidating until the last 15 minutes when he gets taken out by Ant-Man and the Wasp and a bunch of giant ants. Like, he has this suit and he's like obliterating people, literally evaporating them. And then these swarms of giant ants come and he can't hold them back and he gets overpowered. His suit gets halfway destroyed. And then because his suit is damaged, Ant-Man and the Wasp are able to kick the shit out of him. And that's not really a good way to set up an intimidating villain for the future. Somebody that is going to be taking on people like Thor and the Hulk and super powerful characters is somebody that's basically getting beat down by Ant-Man. It just kind of takes away a lot of the fear and intimidation from it. However, see, my theory was that because there is a bunch of variants of Kang and because there's a bunch of different multiverses and stuff, my theory is that the Kang in this movie was not going to be the actual Kang that's going to wind up in the future Avengers movie. I was going to think that this Kang was going to be presented as powerful, but defeatable. But then we find out that he's basically like a weak version of Kang or a low tier Kang, and there's much more powerful versions out there. And that kind of happens, but not really, because in the post-credit scene, we see a bunch of the other Kangs, and they're all kind of assembled in this Colosseum. One's like the ruler of like an Egyptian, kingdom or something like that. One is, looks like he's like really far from the future. So there's all these different versions of Kang. And I really wish during this post-credit scene that they would have at least had one line, just one solid line that could have said something along the lines of, we banished this Kang because he's a fool, he's weak, he's not on track with the rest of us, he doesn't have the same goals as us, like he was a failure, basically. Just to kind of put into perspective that maybe the Kang in this movie was a weak version of Kang, and there are much, much more powerful versions of him out there. That's what I am hoping. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know. Maybe, the fact that he was defeated makes him, more jaded and he comes back even more powerful. And maybe that's the character arc they're going for Kang. I don't know. But if the Kang in this movie is ultimately going to be the Avengers Kang, I mean, he seriously needs a boost. Like, he really, really, really needs a boost. And maybe he will. But I'm crossing my fingers that it's a different Kang that's going to come and eventually be like the most powerful one that they're going to fight. But yeah, overall, it's a very forgettable movie. I'm probably never going to watch it again. 3 months from now, I'm barely going to remember it. And that's a shame because I used to love these movies, man. And I really loved the first phase of Marvel. And so my question to you guys, obviously tell me what you thought about this movie if you watched it down below. But my real question to you guys is, do you at this point have hope for the future of the MCU, or is it done? Is it completely done? Because there are still some characters around that I enjoy. I like Doctor Strange. He's my favorite MCU character. But I think they've completely botched Thor at this point. The Hulk, kind of. Then the big players are out. So who is really left to kind of like pick up the mantle and make this franchise what it was? Or did it have its time? The late 2000s, the 2010s, that was the era of the MCU. And now it's just kind of fading out, like going out with a flicker. Instead of going out with a bang, instead of ending with Endgame, it could have ended on a high note. Is it kind of slowly flickering out now? That's what I want to know from you guys. So do you have any hope whatsoever, or is it done? Anyways, guys, if you like this review, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below to help it in the algorithm. Also, if you want to support the channel on that deeper level, I do have a Patreon, channel memberships, merch store, and all the various social media links where you can follow me down below. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.